Hey there, with this edition, we are going to go ahead and program our enemy properties. So you should have your Star Defender game should be set up. When you run it, you can move, and they're shooting at you. We're shooting back. Woo! However, nothing's happening. So let's go ahead and program this to get something to happen. So the very first thing we're going to do is we are going to add a new event. So come up here to your game sheet or your event sheet, and we are going to destroy player object event. So on your event sheet, we're going to add a new event that uses the enemy bullet object on collision with another object. So we're going to go ahead and add this event. You are going to add your enemy bullet. Yours might not be blue. Go ahead and choose whatever sprite you have created on your event sheet. All right, so we're going to go to on collision with another object. So when our bullet collides with another object, and we want the other object to be the player. So when the enemy bullet hits the player, we actually want something to happen. When the bullet hits the player, we want the player to become destroyed. So right here, we want to destroy the player. Destroy will be in miscellaneous here. Sweet. So when the enemy bullet collides with the player will be destroyed. Cool. Now, what else we would like to add is not only whoa, I was trying to zoom in on this, but not only do we want the player to become destroyed, but if the bullet hits the player, well, then the bullet should also disappear as well. So not only will we destroy the player, but we're also going to destroy the enemy bullet. Okay, sweet. So now the enemy is able to hit the player, but we also want the player to be able to hit the enemy. So we'll go ahead and add a new event. We will do player bullet or player ammo. And so when the player collides with another object, such as the enemy, we want that enemy to become destroyed. So we will destroy the enemy. And not only do we want to destroy the enemy, but we also want to go ahead and destroy the player bullet. Because if the bullet hits the enemy, well, then the bullet should disappear. So we will also destroy the player bullet. Sweet. Da-da-da. And let's go ahead, we'll save this. And we'll run it. Ah! Ah! Oop. And he got me. Sweet. So that's where you should be at right now. How sweet. Alright, so set the player origin. So what we're going to do is, I'm not too sure, my guy might be firing. Yeah, so it's kind of hard to tell, but maybe the step we're about to do is we're going to make sure that the bullet is actually fired from right here on the enemy. Sometimes you might have them like firing from like the corner or something. So we're going to go ahead and back on my layout sheet, I am going to double click on here. And what I'm going to do is we are going to set the player origin point. So what that means is with the basics of your bullet collisions working, you can now spend a little bit more time fixing the minor details. You may have noticed that the bullets might shoot from the center of your ship, but they might not. So let's go ahead, and what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that your bullets do shoot from the center. Remember, this is my awesome enemy spaceship. So what we're going to do right here is we're going to pick this tool, edit the image points, and if your image point is right here, that means that when the bullets are fired from your spaceship, they'll fire from right here. But we don't want that. We want it to fire from maybe like right here. So you are setting the origin. This is where your bullets are going to spawn from. We'll go ahead and close the image editor. And when you play your game, hopefully now you see that your bullets are indeed firing from the front of your cannon. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we are actually going to create more rows of these spaceships. So we're going to create 2 new enemy costumes, and you will now add 2 new enemy ships, or 2 new, additional enemy ships. You can add a new sprite. However, that would mean that we're going to have to redo all these rules. We actually, if you remember Star Defender, it's 3 rows of ships, and we want to go ahead and program that. So to begin, we're going to double click the enemy object, so right here, to open up the animation editor. Okay. In the animations frame, so down here, what I want you to do is you're going to right click on this ship, you're going to click duplicate and duplicate. This way we can have 3 different enemies that all function in the same way. And so now what I want you to do is each row, because we're going to turn these into the 3 different rows of enemies, I want you to go ahead and modify your costume 1 and costume 2. So I'm going to go ahead and simply just change them to be different colors. I'll keep my guys all pretty dark. Whoa, edit undo. And now my third one, maybe he wants to be a deep gold. Okay. And so it says set the image points of the enemy spaceship to a different location. So I'm just going to make sure that all of them are actually shooting from the front. And now on the game layout, copy the row of enemy ships to make 3 rows. So what we're going to do is make sure you've got them all highlighted. You can highlight all of them at once by clicking just this right here. And remember, if you do Control and drag it down, there you go. Control and drag it down. I'm going to go ahead and play my game, see how it works. Whoa! So that's really cool. Notice what's happening. I had all these different costumes and they all changed all at once. So we're going to do something about that on the next slide. Set the entire row of enemies. Select the entire row of enemy spaceships. So this time you are going to have to go ahead and click Shift and click on them all. If you click off, then it looked like they kind of messed me up. Okay, so click on the second row of enemy spaceships. In the property bar, in the bottom properties, change the initial frame to 1. So right here, I'm in my property toolbar, and if I scroll down, initial frame, if I change it to 1, you'll see that now they've actually turned into the costume that I designated for frame 1. We're going to do the same thing. It says select the bottom row. So boom, boom, boom. Whoa. And we're going to put these guys as frame 2. Now one more thing. I want you to change the rate of fire. We will make the front row shoot the slowest at 7. Yeah, it's really frustrating that this doesn't really work. Okay, holding down Shift and selecting all my guys. As you see, I'm kind of rotating them, and I'm not perfecting it right now. At the end of the game, I'll definitely come back and perfect everything. But as for now, I'm just trying to get my routine down. Okay, so rate of fire 5. Maybe I'll make this last Matt, this last row, shoot the slowest. Whatever. Personal preference. Let's go ahead and... So what's really interesting is you may notice that they're all changing colors really, really quickly. And so what we want to do is we want to add an event. We're going to add this stop animation action. So when you play your game, you may notice that all your enemy ship images change and eventually stop on the third animation frame. That's why they all ended up yellow on mine. You will need to turn this animation behavior off. So in your event sheet, you're going to come over here. You will add on the start of layout event, so we already have one of those, this one. So when we begin our layout, we're going to add a new action. And what we want is we want to take these enemy spaceships and we want to keep them at the frame that they're at. So we will come down here and we are going to click stop action. Oh, here we go. Animations, stop. And so now when we preview our game, we should see that they all stay as the frame that we designated them at. And I beat my level 1. Ah! Woo! I'm the best. All right. Let's go ahead. Add enemies to the global variable. Okay, so we're going to start. This is going to help us actually determine when our game will be complete. So, new idea here. We're going to add enemies to the global variable. So, it's a good idea to keep track of how many enemies are on the screen so you can eventually program the game to do something when the enemy count goes to 0. You will use a global variable to store the information for later use. So to add a global variable to your game, we're going to go to the event sheet. So we're here. We're going to right click on some blank space. So this is some blank space. And we're going to go and click add global variable. Add global variable. Name your new global variable enemies. Make it a number, so it's already in a number. And your initial value, we have 27 enemies. We have 3 rows of 9. Maybe if you don't have 27 enemies, don't have 27, but I think we all should. Click OK. Oh, and I did this already last night, and so I've already got mine. Oh, which is why it's right here. All right, the last thing we're going to do is when we destroy an enemy, we're actually going to make this number go down. So we're going to subtract from our enemy's variable when we actually successfully destroy an enemy. So add a new action under the player bullet. So this is my player bullet. So when he collides with an enemy, we actually want something to happen. So this time we're going to select system as the object and subtract from the action. So right here, subtract from, leave the variable set on enemies, and leave the 1 at 1. Okay, so this will subtract the enemy's variable. This will subtract 1 from the enemy's variable every time you destroy a ship. So whenever I destroy a ship, then this number is going to go down. So ultimately, we're going to want that number to become 0 because that would mean that we completed the level, aka we destroyed all the enemies. Next section. Hey, look at that. It reminded me to save my game. Cool. Let's go ahead and play it one more time. You won't see the variable here, but it is actually working behind the scenes. Remember, you can speed your spaceship up or slow him down. You could change the size of your bullets if you really wanted. You could change the size of the enemy bullets. Ah! And that is it for this section. Yay!